this story amuses me because now Republicans are beginning to realize, oh my God, Donald Trump is so incompetent, he might not even get tax reform done. Of course, tax reform is nonsense, it's not reform at all. They're gonna cut taxes to the bone. And the other part of the story that's amusing is that they're like, I don't know if we can cut taxes that much. I mean, this is really monstrous. All right, so let me go to Politico here to give you some background. They explain congressional Republicans came back to Washington ready and eager to work on tax reform, but they're still missing one thing, a plan. That's already funny. That's triggered frustration among rank and file lawmakers who feel pressure from President Donald Trump to pass a tax reform bill, but have seen no plans. So they're like, wait, I know he bungled everything else, but we're gonna get tax cuts for the rich, right? He still doesn't have a plan? Of course he doesn't have a plan, he's an idiot. I like that you just dawned on you and you're like, wait, this is important. This is tax cuts for my donors. In fact, Dave Brat, the guy who ran as a populist when he first won, is now totally in bed with the elite, says, this time around, there is no room for error. This has got to be a home run. I love the panic. I love the smell of panic in the morning in Washington, like, this is tax cuts for the rich. We can't screw this up. There's no room for error. They'll take our donations away. Then we'll be out of a job. Okay, you know, Dave Brat ran the first campaign when he unseated Eric Cantor against the banks. Hey, you know what, the banks are ripping you off and stuff. Now he's like, the banks are awesome. The elite and the rich and the billionaires are awesome. We gotta give them a tax cut. Donald Trump, don't screw this up. So Newt Gingrich goes on TV in a similar theme here. He has a slightly different take on it. Let's watch.
Trump is a Republican, but he doesn't get up in the morning and say, my number one job is to build the Republican Party. I think he sincerely is wrestling with how do you make America great again. I think he was very frustrated coming out of the summer with the inability to get things done on a partisan basis. And I think there's a little bit of floundering here that I think may be creative and healthy. We are in a different world. None of us fully know how the next 6 months are going to work out. I think for the Republicans, there's one absolute total imperative, and that is to pass a tax cut by Thanksgiving. And I think Trump has every reason to be worried that they won't be able to do it.
Okay, so there's three parts to that. The second part is awesome. First, you have to fluff up Donald Trump in order to get him to pay attention. Now, Donald Trump is busy making America great again. Oh, yeah, you're so unbearable. Okay, then he goes on to say my favorite thing. He's like, there's a little bit of floundering here, but that is creative and healthy. He turned floundering into a compliment. Like, Donald, you're doing a great job of floundering. Oh, your floundering is so creative. Whew, I feel healthier already. And then he turns around though, the real reason he's on TV. Now remember, Donald, because I know you watch Fox News, that's why I'm on here. We have to pass the tax cut. That's how we all get paid. Tax cuts are important. Message delivered, I got it. Back to Politico, House Ways and Means Committee member says, it is frustrating and concerning that we don't have the details and yet we're going to be asked in 60 days to vote on something. What did I tell you? He's incompetent. There is no plan. There's no three-dimensional chess. He's not keeping his plan secret because he's gonna come out at the end and be like, supplies, here we go, here's my great plan. Look, this is so important. This is them like trying to beat him up in the press, but gently. It's gonna get in motion, let's go, right? So they'll eventually have one and they'll eventually pass one because all of their political lives depend on it, not because of the voters. They serve the donors and this is priority number 1 through 99 for the donors. Okay, so more from Politico. They explain there are still disagreements among negotiators in closed door meetings over crucial issues, including the corporate tax rate, with President Donald Trump pushing for a 15% rate that others see as unrealistic because of its cost. Now there's more issues, but I want to just stop there for a second. His plan, Trump's plan, is to cut taxes for the rich. Almost all of it, not all of it, but almost all of it goes to the rich. Actually, it raises taxes on the middle class in some ways. It is a 7 to 8 trillion, not million, not billion, $1 trillion tax cut, $7 to $8 trillion. So even other Republicans who love trillions of dollars in tax cuts are like, But wait a minute, the deficit is going to be so gigantic that our decades-long lie about how we care about the deficit, it might get a little overexposed here. Like 15%? That's a lot, Donald. Because cutting from 35 to 15% is such a monstrous giveaway to the swamp and to the multinational corporations that fund the Republican Party. All right, more of their objections. There's a lack of a clear path forward on the 2018 budget, which will be used as a vehicle for tax reform. In other words, we're just going to blow a hole in the 2018 budget so large we can't hide it. And then finally, allowing businesses to immediately write off the cost of equipment and other big investments. That's another giant giveaway to corporations. So they're like, okay, you get to deduct all that stuff right away. Remember the original plan was, no. We're not doing tax cuts. We're doing tax reform. So yeah, sure, it looks like we're cutting their taxes, but we are going to take away other loopholes so that it balances out and then it has no effect on the deficit. Now they're like, okay, we're going to do the giant tax cuts, and Trump would also like to add loopholes in. A little hard to get away with this one. It's so hard that even Republicans are pushing back. Senator John Thune says, the president's been out there talking about a 15% rate. The House has talked about 20, but to get it down from 35 to 20, it's about $100 billion per point. So even he is recognizing, look, man, I can do the math on that. Going from 35 to 20 at $100 billion per percentage, that's $1.5 trillion. He'd like to go down to 15, that's $2 trillion. And that is way conservative. Like I said, the real nonpartisan economists who have looked at it say, no, it's $7 to $8 trillion. So, but for Thune, he's like, I don't know how to put a $2 trillion hole in the deficit and then pretend I'm for balanced budgets. He's like, help me out. He's like, can we go to 20? By the way, if they went to 20 instead of 15, there would be a monstrous tax cut for the rich. Monstrous. But this is how they move the Overton window. This is how the right wing operates. They go, okay, 35% is too high. The effective tax rate is actually in the teens because there's so many loopholes. They don't pay those taxes. So many of the Fortune 500 companies pay zero in taxes. Some of them get money back. They hide their money offshore. They do all those tricks. They're not going to take those tricks away. They're just going to cut their taxes. But they're saying there's might be a bounce of reason to even what Trump is suggesting. Now, if Trump executed it right, it would be a classic Republican strategy. You say 35, I say 15. Okay, fine, let's do a deal on 20 or 25. Holy cow, you just actually cut trillions of dollars in taxes and can't cover for it, right? But part of their problem is that Trump is not doing it competently, so he's bungling it, and I'm sorry, he's being creative. He's creatively floundering, going, I don't know, let's just give the rich everything. Why don't we just give them everything? I'm rich, let's just give it to them. And the other Republicans are like, ay. So Paul Ryan's saying, look, let's just do a huge tax cut to 22.5%. That's really, really low. And Ryan said on the 15% number, he's like, those numbers are really hard to make work. The reality is his proposal of 22.5% is also impossible to make work. They don't care about balanced budgets. They never cared about the deficits. They just want to be able to get away with one of the greatest American robberies of our lifetimes. They think Trump is too stupid, he's asking for too much, and they won't be able to get away with it. They're like, look, we just take a couple of $1 trillion off the table and give it to our donors, and we'll be able to cover that up. Get on board, you schmuck. That's the debate the Republican Party's having. But either way, you're about to be robbed. Support independent media. Come join us at the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.